Earlier in the week, we ended up getting a substantial update for Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Again, around 11 gigabytes to 12 gigabytes depending on the platform you were on, and I think it was slightly less on PC, I could be mistaken, however, but regardless, we ended up getting a ton of stuff added in that was either added in immediately or some things later, like the black market changes that we saw a day later. But with that update, we saw our first real overhaul of some weaponry and some fine-tuning to how those systems work and what the attributes for each weapon come out to be. Now, with this, we ended up seeing quite a hefty amount of nerfs and some slight buffs, and so today I want to talk to you guys about 3 of what I think are the best weapons coming out of this update in terms of what was changed from where they were before to where they are now. So they're probably not still going to be those best weapons in the game overall, but they're weapons that I think are worth trying here within Black Ops 4. If you didn't like them before, something might have changed a little bit and maybe worked a little better now after this update. So we're gonna be taking a look at 3 weapons, 1 SMG, 1 tactical rifle, and 1 sniper rifle here within this one. So that said, let's just jump into it. The first weapon up on deck here comes with the SMG classification, that being the default SMG, the MX9. Now this one is one that was already pretty solid, but it actually got a buff where it can be a crucial improvement to the weapon. While it was nerfed in just the placement of the high caliber attachment, that reduced the headshot multiplier, which does not allow anymore for the possibility of a 4-hit kill. Whenever you're going into a gunfight, if you hit all 4 shots on the head, you're no longer going to get that kill. Instead, it's gonna take 1 more shot, which is unfortunate, and to me, the entire nature of that is just odd. If you end up landing 4 consecutive shots to the head, to me, I think you deserve that kill by far. But when it comes down to it, the big buff here to this weapon was that it extended all the damage ranges. So that means the already impressive range for an SMG on the MX9 got extended even more. So that max damage is now longer at distance, and the damage fall off is much farther than before. Of course, this does not mean you're gonna be able to 5-shot somebody all the way across the map in core modes, but you will have a few more meters before the damage starts to fall off before it takes 6 and more shots to end up killing an enemy, which of course for an SMG, the more you can end up having that range, the better, because then you come close to having a rifle with SMG mobility essentially. So it's always impressive for a weapon to be able to carry those ranges on outside of what is normally an SMG range, and for the MX9 to have that extended is fantastic. If I were to recommend a class setup here with this, what I've been running recently is my Patriot variant, which has different iron sights, so I run an optic on this, plus I'm going for challenges for headshots, so I run a reflex to end up giving me that more precise aim here. But the big things that I also run here on this are also the hybrid mag and the long barrel, because the hybrid mag allows you to have that faster reload, plus a little more ammunition, and then you also end up having a long barrel, which takes that already extended damage fall off range and extends it even further. So of course, that's always massive. It's a little bit of a run and gun class setup that I run here at this, so I run lightweight. Gung Ho is a great option here as well. Scavenger to keep the ammo coming, and of course dead silence so that I can hear enemy players, but I don't necessarily give away my position. Stim shot also is something I've been playing around with the acoustic sensor and stim shot. I'm liking stim shot in a lot of situations with this run and gun class setup because I can get in and out of situations and regen if necessary. Of course, I do have 1 pick 10 item left, but I end up using that where I normally would put a primary gunfighter with another attachment. I end up having to use in a lot of hardcore situations that, again, I'm still going for camos. I end up using the Helion Salvo, which again is just a kind of placeholder there, so feel free to put any other attachment on this if you don't really want to run that launcher. The next weapon up on deck, though, is the ABR-223. Moving over into the tactical rifles now. The ABR was one that is kind of an interesting scenario again, that it has 1 crucial factor that was buffed, but the rest are kind of smaller nerfs that take away from it, but also it has 1 redeeming factor with 1 attachment. So we'll start out with the nerfs that ended up getting adjusted here at this one. The repeater operator mod now takes longer to accelerate the fire rate. This thing, I don't know if you guys played around with it in the beta at all, or even before this ended up getting nerfed. The repeater for the operator mod of the ABR-223 would very quickly turn the ABR into a full auto weapon. I think it was about 3 bursts was the interval. It had 1 where it was the full delay. Between second and third, it was about half, and then a quarter, and then after that, it was a full auto weapon. So it very quickly accelerated into full auto mode, and it would shred through enemies. There's no doubt about that, and there's gameplay to prove it. But this ended up getting nerfed a little bit, to which that interval between bursts is now longer. The stock ended up getting a slight reduction in the movement speed bonus, but that's honestly, having played around with it, not all that noticeable. You can see differences between other stock variations with other weapons, but it's really not all that bad. But as for the buffs, we ended up seeing that Laser Sight and Laser Sight 2 actually now have a buff to improve the hip fire accuracy of the ABR-223, and the big kicker is that it now extended the maximum damage range with this. So again, very similar similar to the MX9, but it does not extend all damage ranges, just that first and fastest TTK of the weapon. That is now extended a little further, to which it bleeds over to where it normally would be that medium range engagement for the ABR. So having a little bit more now to work with in terms of maximum damage over range, it now plays into two very distinct categories, where while I still would not prefer this obviously in close quarters gunfights, if you end up getting this with the laser sight attachment on it, it becomes worlds better if you have to hip fire somebody because they're in a close quarter situation. And then at range, assuming that you can control the recoil, you'll be able to take out enemies a lot easier because that damage fall off is increased. Now again, as with the MX9, we'll give you a little class setup. What I've been running here at this is an optic of either a reflex or an elo sight. Haven't ranked up to get the elo, so that's why I'm using the reflex here in this gameplay. Quick draw, the laser sight naturally, and of course the stock. Now, the stock we just discussed had a little bit of a penalty compared to where it was previously, but again, it's really not all that bad. I definitely would still recommend running this with stock, because if you end up using it, obviously you can end up ADSing and still moving at relatively the same walking speed and pace you'd normally be at, but you end up having just a slight difference between now and a couple of days ago. But when you put those together, you have a laser pointer of a weapon, almost quite literally with that laser sight. Then I end up running the acoustic sensor with this so that I can have a heads up of where people are going to be coming from, and not only being able to hear them, but also getting that indicator of the Sixth Sense style of minimap awareness. Along with that, we also run one primary gunfighter wildcard, plus the perks of Scavenger, Gung Ho, and Dead Silence. A little bit more mobile of a playstyle, but not necessarily a running gun as much as the MX9 was. And the final weapon we'll talk about deals with a sniper rifle, that being the SDM. Now, I was up in the air with this one, as well as talking a little bit about the Outlaw, but having used the Outlaw quite a bit to get the challenges done here for this one, it's still pretty downright bad in my opinion. I end up getting so many hit markers with it. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know if I necessarily like it as much as what I came to use the SDM with. Now, the SDM, of course, probably isn't everybody's favorite weapon to either play with or go up against, simply because it's a semi-auto sniper, and those are never really fun to encounter. But with this, we ended up getting a buff all around. It wasn't all that much, but there were no nerfs to try and counterbalance it. What we ended up getting for the SDM's adjustments were an increased clip or magazine size of 10 to 12, so you got 2 extra shots in a magazine for each magazine within the SDM, plus you also ended up having reduced idle sway, and it wasn't quite as bad as the Paladin and that idle sway without stabilizer, but it was something you definitely would notice. But now it seems almost non-existent, to the point of, at least if you have a grip on, you're gonna be totally fine with the SDM. And of course, that also helps to counterbalance the recoil, which can be quite interesting if you end up going in and spamming that weapon a little bit, if you're either at range or even medium range, that is. You'll end up coming off target quite a bit, so grip definitely helps with this. But when you take a look at just even the slight change of adding a few more shots to each magazine plus that idle sway, it became something that was a lot more manageable. I absolutely couldn't stand this thing earlier on, but played around with it a little bit today, and it wasn't as bad as I remembered. Of course, it's still obviously is gonna be a pain to get gold for and subsequently diamond for my snipers with, but it will be something that is manageable at least, and I won't hate every second of doing it. That said, if you wanna jump in with the SDM and try this one out, I was playing around a little bit with the extended mags, so you get even more than 12 shots per magazine, then a little bit with the grip as well to counterbalance again that recoil and make sure there's no real idle sway at all. Then I was playing around with either a different attachment, or in the case of the one gameplay you're watching right now, I actually swapped on one of the variable scopes, so that was something that I played around with just a bit to see how that would work. But it depends on what you use, because with the scope on it, you'll end up having one extra pick 10 slot, which of course you can end up putting elsewhere if you want to use a pistol like I do in this, if you want to put an attachment on the RK7 Garrison, which I run, or if you want to sacrifice the pistol and throw on an additional attachment or additional perk, that's totally up to you. But along with the RK7 Garrison, I run the acoustic sensor to again have that little more heads up in terms of audio and a visual on the minimap, plus I end up running Scavenger, Gung Ho, and Dead Silence. I'm not really the sit back in the corner and wait for this one to happen on this gun, but it is something that allows me to be a little more mobile, but also stay a little stealthier as a sniper as well. But to me, those weapons are the best weapons that got a quick little turnaround as of this week's update. Of course, they're probably not main meta weapons and weapons I would naturally go in and say, you know what, I'm gonna pick this over a Maddox or a Vapor or an ICR or anything like that, but they're weapons that if you are going for challenges or you wanna try and challenge yourself a little bit to the point of using weapons you're not necessarily used to, they're much better than they used to be. And so with that, I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Do you think these are the most improved weapons out of that weapon tuning that we had as of this past week? week? Or is there anything that you would throw in on this list to maybe replace or add onto it? Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. If you are also new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, multiplayer, blackout, zombies. We got you covered here up on the channel with the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, best class setups, all that good stuff. We got you covered here on the channel. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And if you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected from outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to check those out, links are in the description below. Well, that's it out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name's been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.